to teach terrifically. And now, how many of you teach children? How many of you do not teach children? I'm sorry for you. But keep in mind that these same 10 terrific ways of teaching children are equally terrific for adults. Right? So one of the main ways that we teach terrifically, the first way, is create a reason to communicate. So for example, if I ask you, what city are we in? Now I knew that, right? Why would I ask you the question? The airport said Sakamoto. So I know where I am. There's no reason for me to ask that question. And we do that all the time in English class. We have the students look at the page and say, number 1, what's that? Number 2, what's that? And the students are thinking, well, don't you know? It's in the book. So we want to create a reason to communicate in everything that we do. Oh, now we're not going forward or backward. That's special. Freezing. Yeah, we're freezing. Okay. It's going to be one of those days. So for example, hi Eric, what's your name?
Chuck?
You're lying. Right? So, how can you can always do introductions the first time in class. But after that, you need to practice introductions. Right? So there's 2 ways to do it. You can either find somebody that your students do not know, and then it's a real introduction. Or you can turn it into a game, and that's what we're going to do here. I have a clicker up here. My voice is not all that strong, so when I am working, I've got lots of presentations, and if I have to yell at you, my voice will not last. So, when you hear me go, it means it's time to sit down and be quiet. It's not hammering next door. What I want you to do is introduce yourself to 3 people in this room. I want you to find 3 people who you do not know. Does anybody know everybody in this room? Okay, except Chuck. If everybody knows Chuck Sandy, then nobody introduces themselves to Chuck Sandy. So if you find 3 people you do not know, introduce yourself, and then go sit down, and get ready for the next activity. So for example, I would go, well, I know you. I don't know you. Hi, I'm Barbara. What's your name? Nice to meet you. Right, and then I go for 2 more people. All right? Does everybody understand what to do? Yes. Does everybody understand the language you need to do it? Yes. So please stand up, introduce yourself to 3 people, and sit down. want you to tell me the 3 names of the people that you met. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be as simple as putting a divider for like kindergarten. My kindergartners can't speak very well. They don't know a lot of words. But it's a simple thing of going 1, 2, 3 and putting a divider so they can't see. The first student says 1. It's a car. 2. It's a doll. 3, it's a ball. And 4, it's a jump rope. The other student has to listen because she cannot see. Right? There's a reason to communicate. So, whenever we're trying to get our students to talk, let's give them a reason to talk. That's 1. 2, we want to make practice playful. It doesn't mean everything in your room has to be a game. But you can do drills in a playful way. If you call it a game and you make rules, it's a game. For example, I want you to stand up and sit down quickly. Okay? Stand up if you are wearing a t-shirt. Nobody has a t-shirt on here. You dress very formally. Stand up if you're not wearing a t-shirt. And sit down. Stand up if you're wearing your pajamas. Stand up if you're wearing slippers. Stand up if you're wearing jeans. Stand up if you are wearing black socks. Stand up if you are wearing shoes. Now, you laughed, you had fun, I got to listen to you, and I understood that you knew the language that we were talking about.
Yeah.
You didn't have to speak. I want you to show me a gesture for can. So, if I ask you, can you stand up?
Yes, I can.
Yes,
I can.
I can. Why do we insist on teaching the children the long form of the answer? Because yes is quite acceptable, correct?
Yeah.
Right, so quite often, teachers will take a shortcut and they will ask their students to simply answer yes or no. Okay. Can you do a handstand?
No, I can't.
We ask students to learn the full form of the answer because otherwise they learn how to answer yes and no. And then when we have the question, are you a boy? Yes. Do you have a sister? Yes. Do you have a mother? Yes. Have you ever been to Disneyland? Yes. Without having any idea that it's actually yes I can, yes I do, yes I am, or yes I have. Right? And then when they start to read and write, they have to learn those patterns again. And the language is much more difficult at that point. So when they're small, teach the full forms when they don't have very much language to remember. It's much easier and it saves you time. Now, we want to also add some gestures to this. So if you answer by say, can you swim? You want to say, yes, I can. What's a good gesture for yes, I can? Okay, that's Eric's gesture for yes, I can. My students usually go, maru in Japan. So show me your gesture for yes, I can. The Indonesian, yes, I can, okay? Show me, no, I can't. It works, it works. All right, so tell me, can you do a handstand?
No, I can't.
So it's very simple to make things meaningful and playful. And because I want to give you more time to practice other things, let me see. I want you to think of one of these items. One thing that you could do. Can everybody do one thing on the screen? Yes? Yes, I can? I can do one thing?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If you can't, pretend. If you can't do a handstand, or a magic trick, or ride a pony, or play the piano, pick your dream. What would you like to be able to do? Then, I want you to find one more person who can do the same thing. So in order to find it, for example, you have to ask a question. Udi, can you do a magic trick?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I was lucky. I got the first time. So then, I have Udi, stand up. And we will say, we can do a magic trick.
Do a magic trick.
Okay, so I can do a magic trick, we can do a magic trick. And then we go back and sit down. So again, do you understand all of the language you need in order to do this activity?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand the rules of the activity? Is there any reason that you need to speak Bahasa during this activity? And I always ask my students those 3 questions, not the Bahasa part. But in my class, it's, do you know the language? Do you understand the rules? Is there any reason I need to hear Japanese? No. It's a contract to keep things in English. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I want you to find one person who can do the same thing that you can. Hold your hand up and say, we can. Do a handstand. And then go back to your seat. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. All right. I'm going to need a volunteer for this next thing. I apologize to the people who are trying to follow this on live stream. I'm moving all over the place. But most of your course books have vocabulary on the page, correct?
Yes.
You can turn your vocabulary page into a game board. I'm using a book that already has the games built in. Let's Go has a game in every lesson. But just because the rules are on the page doesn't mean you need to play the game the same way. You can change the rules. There is no course book God that says you have to do this the way I wrote it on the page. Who would like to be my helper? Okay, Booty, come on up. The original rules for this game are pretty straightforward, correct?
Right.
You roll the die, you move, and you ask, is this a yellow pencil? Yes. Yes. And it's a good practice, it's a good game, it's a drill. And it looks like a game. But after we play it the first way, maybe we might want to come back and play the game again. can change the rules. And what we're going to do is change both of those. So I'm going to start at the end. Woody will start at the beginning. Woody, are you really strong with rock, scissors, paper?
Yes.
Let's give this a try. We're going to go rock, scissors, paper, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go that, right? Rock, scissors, paper, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Aha! Not so strong now. Okay. The way we play this game, we're going to do sentences. So I start here and I point and I say, it's a star. It's a bag. It's a desk. It's a pen. It's a little fuzzy this big. Booty is going to start at this side. And Booty is younger. Right? I'm in a mixed age class. I'm the older student. Only by a little bit. Booty's going to start here, and he only has to say the vocabulary name. Square, pencil, triangle, star. I can change the rules between students. If you have an older student and a younger student, you can make this older student do more to make it an equal playing field. Right? So, Booty, all you need to do is the names. I do the sentence. When we meet in the middle someplace, we're going to do rock, scissors, paper, 1, 2, 3. The winner stays. The loser, which will be Booty, will go all the way back to the beginning and start over. The first one of us to get to the other side is the winner. So let's try it. We may not finish the game depending on how equal we are here, but we can show you how it's going to look. Right? Do you understand how to do it? Ready? Go! It's a star. It's a bag.
Square,
it's a desk.
pencil,
It's a
triangle,
hammer.
star,
It's a chair.
circle,
It's a table. It's a heart.
rectangle,
It's an oval. Rock, scissors, paper. 1, 2, 3. I lost. Okay, back here. You stay. Oval. Oval. You keep going. It's a
It's a
star.
heart,
It's
it's
a
a
bag.
table,
It's
it's
a
a chair,
desk.
it's a
crate.
pencil.
It's rock, scissors, paper. 1, 2, 3. Ha! I'm not my dad. Okay. Rock, scissors, paper. 1, 2, 3. It's a star. Oh, okay. I'm gonna let Booty win. I let you win. Thank you very much. Now, with younger children, if you have a big class, you use the book. If you have a small class, you can put cards down on the floor and just have children walk along the cards from opposite ends. On my YouTube channel, there's a couple of videos showing children playing the game in different ways. Very simple ways. You've got 5 minutes at the end of your class. It's a good review. And it's a game. But the children do a lot of language practice. It's way more fun than holding up the card and asking them to repeat. We want to make the language personal. What is your students' favorite topic of conversation? What do your students like to talk about most? Sports, the government in Jakarta, themselves. My life, my family, my favorite TV show, my favorite singer, my favorite food, my dreams. So, language is only a tool. Unless the students have a chance to apply the tool to their own lives, there's no purpose to it. English is a tool for communication. We want our students to be excited to communicate. And they're most excited to communicate about themselves. For example, do you like bread? Do you like rice? Do you like cake? Do you like ice cream? Welcome to Indonesia. Do you like pizza? Do you like chicken? Do you like fried chicken? Do you like fish? and lots of fried things. I wonder which food is the most popular in this room. You think so? You think rice is the most popular? Okay. Well, let's find out. I want you to choose your favorite food from this list. Don't tell me. It's a secret. Okay, did everybody choose their favorite food from the list? This time, I want you to find everybody in the room who likes the same food. I don't know if you can do it, but what I want you to try is the same way we did can you. Okay, I'll ask, do you like ice cream? Okay, now, you only get to pick one food. Okay, so in this case, even if you like everything on there, if you didn't pick ice cream, the answer is no, I don't. Right, you only like one food for this activity. Right, so, can you stand up then? So then we're a team. We're going to go, do you like ice cream? Yes, I do. Okay, stand up. So we keep our team. Keep going. Do you like ice cream? I didn't plan this. I have a feeling I made one group in this room. All right, sit down. But I want you to do the same thing. Okay, and I'm only going to give you 2 minutes. Because if you can't find everybody in 2 minutes, then we need to move on. Okay, ready to go?
the students.
Yes.
Teachers are more difficult than any students. So, if you see me, if you see me raise my hand, it means I need your attention. So I want you to show me that you see me by raising your hand, and then everybody will see you raising your hand, and very soon the room will be quiet. If you do this in a class, this kind of activity, now a lot of schools are not so keen about teachers having students stand up and moving around, right? If you can show them that your students are learning the language better, then it's much easier to get their support. If your technique is improving the level of English in your school, if your students are having so much fun that they go home and say, I love my English class, then more people want to pay money to go to your school, and the owner is very happy. And then pretty soon he'll say, now, look what she's doing in her class. You should do that. Okay. So all you need to do, if you have a director or you have a school where they're very hesitant to try activities where students talk to each other, where they stand up and move, where they add gestures, what you need to do is explain that it's a drill. It's like putting broccoli cut up in little teeny pieces and hiding it in something that the students like. You're putting something that's very good for them in the cover of something that they like. But it's still a drill. When you were practicing that activity, how many times did you ask the grammar pattern question? To find other people who like the same food? One time? 2 times? You had to ask a lot of people to find other people who like the same food, unless you had ice cream. So, if you can show your director that if you go in a row, each student gets to practice 1 time. If you have an activity, everybody gets to practice a lot of times. So it's actually much more effective practice, isn't it? One more thing, I had a question during that activity about grouping. Do you ever have a problem putting your students into groups?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
They all want to be with their friends? Especially if they're girls? And they don't really want to talk about the English lesson? They want to talk about school, or their friends, or TV, or the Pokemon cards. You can use an activity like this for grouping as well. If you write 2 cards with the same word, okay, the grammar pattern you want to practice. And if I want to practice, do you like? I will give each student a card with a food, or an animal, or a color. And they have to find the other student who likes the same thing. So if I have a pair of cards, then they are looking for a pair. And that's their pair for the activity that comes next. If I want them to be in a group of 3 or 4, I will have 3 or 4 cards with the same word. And then they have to find their family. Or they have to find their group. Now, as a teacher, I can pretend that it's very random, that I'm giving them random cards. But I can actually give them to the students I want to work together. Right? You can cheat. It's the teacher's right to cheat. So you can put the students you want to work together, and they won't feel that they're being assigned to the group, because it's just the way the game worked out. Okay, so that's one way that you can get around grouping problems, is by building it into the activity that comes before you want to have a group. All right? Yeah. Let's also make something personal. This is a page from Let's Go. And it's a pretty typical page, I think, for course books. It has, this is my friend, Sarah. Like introductions. So what's a natural way to personalize this? They don't care about Sarah, I can tell you. So we learn the language, we learn the song. This is my friend Sarah, hello Sarah. And then, after we've learned the language, we've listened to the conversation, we've sung the song, we've done the role play, what's the next step to personalize? Anyone? Talk about their friends. Remember? My house, my life, my friends. It's the most interesting. So we take the language and we apply it to the students' lives. First, we start with getting the information. We're reviewing and recycling language that the students have already learned. So, for example, we're talking about Yuna, a friend at elementary school. Yuna is 7? 9? I can't read this card here. And she likes pink. So we're practicing reading. We're practicing recycling language that's familiar. We're practicing talking about our friends. Building the language to talk about our friends. You can do this just as easily with adults. It might be a little bit more complicated grammar, but the principle is the same. You want to provide support. If I walk in and say, now, write about your friend, there's not enough support for my students to do that accurately. So we take time and we practice and build the language. Then they draw a picture of their friend and tell me a story. For the younger children, I write the story. For the older children, they write the story. Okay, for younger children, in Japan, children don't learn how to write the Roman alphabet until 3rd or 4th grade. So if I ask my students to write, it's really a challenge. They probably write a little bit earlier in Indonesia because the alphabet is very similar, right? The writing system. So after we do this, what I want them to do is read. I want them to read it to me. I want them to speak, right? I want to do all 4 skills. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. If I tell my students, I want you to practice that, and then read it to me, what's the reaction? Are your students excited? Neither are mine. Practice? I don't want practice. Practice is boring. So what I can do instead is give them a microphone. Before I lost my iPhone, I would use my iPhone. There is a pink iPhone floating here someplace. And if I give them my iPhone with the recording, I say, oh, just rehearse until you think it sounds good. Rehearsal is much more fun than practice. I discovered this by accident. It's like karaoke or karaoke. If you give a microphone, it doesn't even have to work. But if you're holding a microphone, suddenly you're performing. You're speaking loudly and clearly. And then they listen and think, oh, it's not good enough. I'm thinking, oh, that sounds fine. But they want to do it again, and again, and again, and again, because it doesn't sound perfect. I could never get my students to practice that hard by saying, repeat, 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 repeat. But if I say, oh, if you can do it in one time, it's fine. Here's a microphone. If you like the way it sounds, you're done. They do it 10 times. Wow, that's a good trick. And sometimes the microphone isn't even connected to anything. They're little. Or give them the video camera. If you give them the video camera, now you also have a discussion over who's first, who gets to push the button, who is going to be the helper. So we had like first, second, third, we had you're going to help, we had all kinds of wonderful language. The videos, not good. It's okay. It's an English class. The goal is to practice the conversation. The goal is to improve language. I don't care if they can become filmmakers. some note volume.
Okay, this is my friends. Nagi eats egg. Nagi likes plants.
Push the button.
Okay, again, not great filming. But they were so proud. And I sent it to the parents. The parents were amazed. Right? Sometimes you like to have parents come to your classroom and watch the class. Maybe once a year, twice a year. Well, if you do something like this, it's really easy to send. Like if you have a smartphone, you can film it on the smartphone and send it immediately by email. And then the parents get this little note, like, my child. Because parents is their favorite topic. Okay, the children like to talk about me. The parents like to talk about my child. So if you send them little pictures of your child's projects using your smartphone, you will be the most brilliant English teacher in Indonesia. And they will love you. Another principle, another terrific way of teaching is to close your books. Why do you close your books before teaching your language? If you have your books open in class, what are your children looking at? Are they always looking at what you want them to look at in the book? No. Sometimes they're looking at another page. Sometimes they're writing in the book. Sometimes they're looking at their friend's book. Sometimes they're drawing, they're throwing things, they're not doing what you want. So if you introduce language with the books closed, the focus is on your pronunciation, your gestures, your speech, and they are listening to you. So we want to do that, and we want to create a reason to speak. So first we have to learn the language, and I'm going to do this really quickly because you are all very advanced students. But we're going to move from vocabulary to sentence to question to a way to do group practice in a way that creates a meaningful way to communicate. All right? What's this? Okay, what's this? What's this? What's this? Okay, I want you to put it into a sentence. It's a... Okay, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Okay. What's this? Right. I usually have rectangle the most often because it is the most difficult. So we repeat it the most. Now, what did I say? Not rectangle, the question. What did I say? Right, so you already heard the question every time I showed you the cards. So what's the question?
What's this?
What's the question?
What's this?
What's the question?
What's this?
What's this 3 times? What's this? What's this? What's this?
What's this? What's this?
What's this? What's this? What's this? Very good. I want you to ask me.
What's this?
It's a rectangle.
What's this?
It's a heart.
What's this?
It's a star. It's a heart. Circle. Now, I separated the question and the answer so that it's meaningful even in practice. Because if I say, what's this? It's a rectangle. Often the students don't understand the difference between the question and the answer. Now, a very simple way, we're going to practice in 2 groups. Divided about in the middle. If you're in the middle row, you can decide, do you feel like you're this group? Or do you feel like you're this group? Either way is fine. You're the swing vote, yes. Either way is fine with me. We're going to see which side does a better job with this. So, you're going to ask the question. You're going to answer. If I hold the cards like this, can they see the answer? No. So how will they know what card it is? Well, you have to listen.
Yes.
All right, so there's a reason to communicate. All right, are you ready? Which side is the clearest pronunciation? the loudest voice, the most beautiful accent. Are you ready? Okay, ready?
What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this?
Okay, that was pretty good. I don't know. Who do you think was better? And usually the children at that point would say, "We were." All right, let's see if this side can do it together. Let's mix this up a little bit. Ready? Oh goodness, equally good. I think that maybe it's a tie. You're both equally good. So, that's an easy way to divide the practice in a way that even a simple practice activity, a drill, can be meaningful. You can change things around. Just because it's the order that we have on the page doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So, for example, if you're teaching very young children, is it easier to learn language in the conversation or in a song? Teach the song first. Right? Just because the book has it in one order doesn't mean you have to do it that way. Do what works best for your students. Make your students think. And we want you to engage with language and use it as a way to improve thinking skills. Again, simple activity. These are teachers' cards. How many categories do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many categories? 5? 4? 10 categories. Typically, most students will put them into these categories the first time. Like clothing, costume items, food, toys, animals. I want you to create one new category. Think of another way to group the cards.
Green thing.
Okay, green things. Okay, what are 2 things that you think would go together?
Look at the trees.
What categories? 2? Oh, things that are 2. Living things and non-living things. And those are all good.
Good.
Right? And just because the logic is not the same as the teacher idea, it makes the students think. There's not really a wrong answer here. I want them to tell me the reason. So for example, sometimes I'll get jeans and scissors together. There's always 2 things, right? There's always a pair. Or popcorn, puzzle, and grapes. Why are those together? Many pieces. The explanations are not going to be very detailed, but that's okay. The students are thinking at a much higher level than they can speak. Sometimes we have iguana, grapes, puzzle, and colored pencils together. Green. Right, so I've seen polar bear and paper, or polar bear and ice cream, vanilla ice cream, because they're white. So it's all a matter of engaging. You can use it to create stories, for example, or sentences. You can put the teacher's cards in piles for people, actions, and places, and make a sentence. So who can make a sentence for these 3 cards? We have a scientist broke a window at the library. Who can make a sentence? A scientist broke a window at the library. Right. That's the easiest level. Everything's in it. Just have to read. You can make it more challenging. You have people, objects, and places.
Found a cell phone.
Found a cell phone at the barber shop. Okay? It makes it more challenging because you have Leonardo da Vinci, volcano, and TV. So Leonardo da Vinci, you see. Oh, these are different sentences, yeah. Leonardo da Vinci takes rocket ship number 3 and she goes to the volcano. Or the TV, watches TV at the volcano. Or we make stories where you start with the word on the cube and then you add to it. Like Mona Lisa forgot her bag on the soccer field. So she goes to the soccer field to get her bag. Her bag is not there because Mona Lisa's bag is at home. And then of course you always have to have an ending. Mona Lisa is shocked. Recycle familiar language with new skills. If you're teaching new vocabulary, use familiar grammar. If you're teaching new grammar, use familiar vocabulary. If you're teaching reading, use language the students already know how to say. And rather than showing that we're going to do something. Okay, one last thing to do. We're going to do a way of teaching all of the senses in one activity. Alright? This is our last activity. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 volunteers. Your last chance to volunteer. Phonics, everybody's favorite. You don't want to miss this. Alrighty, I know who wants to volunteer. I hear it in my head. Come on, I have you. Alright, take a card, go to the front. I need 3 more. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And 1 more, okay, up here. This is wonderful. Who has ah? Who has ah? Ah. Ah sound. These are all sounds, not the parts. Okay, who has the ah? Apple. You are the star. This is the lesson. So apple. You're going to stand here, and that's all you have to do. You're done. You just hold your card up. Who has pink? Okay, we have pink. Who has coat? Coat. Who has tiger? Who has, what do we have? Oh, the girl. Who has the boy? Alright, now everybody except Apple, stand back. I'm going to say a word. I'm going to sound out a word. I want you to, no, what's up? It's the lesson. Every word has So, if I say no, still in it. Left to right. Okay, did they get it? Let's listen. Yeah. Did they do it right? Okay, let's try another one. Back up. No, ass face up. Every word has Did they get it? Tap. Right. All right. Okay, has everybody got a chance to do it? Put the cards down. And you can sit down, and we're going to do a chant. Show me a gesture for cat. Show me your cat. Okay, this is mine. ah? Ah. It's just like your mouth. Ah. Right, so you go ah. Then that way when your students are making a mistake with the sound, you can go, and they'll remember. So I'm going to do the chant. When you have an idea, I want you just to join me. We're going to do it 3 times, I think. And this is your last chance to do something very exciting, so do your best.
Page 36. Sing, listen, point, and chant. The A5's chant.
Again with a screen. And they practice telling each other what to do. And the only rule is you have to be able to explain it in English. But they have to listen because they cannot see the answer. Connect language to life. Language, learning English, is a good way to connect your students to life outside Indonesia. So use their English lessons to help them connect. Make it real. So if you're learning about time zones, then get out your smartphone and let's do a search. What time is it in Japan? What time is it in the United States? And look up the answer. If you're measuring things, you're looking at comparatives. Which book is heavier? Get the books out in your class and weigh them. Which one is heavier? Make it real. When you're reading about children's chores in other countries, talk about your chores. Or what chores do children do in Indonesia? Use it as a model for writing. Okay, whatever you do, try to make it real. Okay, reason to speak. All senses. Real. English is a tool for communication. And if we can use those terrific ways to teach, whether you're teaching 3-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 30-year-olds, or 80-year-olds, you will have students that remember the language better than by using only the book and only looking at the page. These are ways to connect with me. The Let's Share has lots of free things for Let's Go right now, which is the book that I wrote. If you need to reach me, the easiest way is to friend me on Facebook or to call Irene. Either way will find me. Thank you so much for your attention and your good support and in doing everything so enthusiastic.
Okay, I'm so for being such a slow sport. Okay, it was great. Don't you think so? Did you have fun? actually 2 questions. Who is going to ask questions? Because we have very limited time. 2 people? Okay. Uli and the lady in red, I think.
Red? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions for me.
Should I go down so we can do on the microphone? Okay, Booty. What is your question?
Actually, I have questions a lot, but I just want to ask about what about a classroom with minimal resource? I got a small school and we just start things, and we don't have that much resource, especially flashcards. So what I can see is when you want to bring something real, bring real things or reality into the class, at least you can have a flashcards. I know that sometimes you can download flashcards. There are websites to provide that. But what I'm afraid about using flashcards is, I teach a lot, very small young children, and when we give them flashcards, they don't survive. So how do we manage those things? Keeping our resource in tidy things and surviving our resources. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, the question is, how do I keep my children from destroying my picture cards? Well, first of all, one of the first lessons is, do not bend the card. Do not step on the card. So we use it for imperatives, what you do and don't do. I usually buy the flashcards, even though they're more expensive, because they're made of stronger paper. And they last better. But you can make them for magazine pictures. Right? You can take old magazines and cut out the pictures of food. Or you can go to Microsoft.com and they've got lots of clip art of food. And if it's downloadable clip art that you have a legal right to use, then even if the card is destroyed, you can make another one. Right? So what I would suggest, though, if you do that, is start a file on your computer. When you download them, you don't put them directly on the card, put them in the file folder, so that when the card is destroyed, you don't have to rethink, where did I get that picture? Does that help? Right, and over here we have one more question.
Hello, my name is Yurika from Company 092, and I would like to ask you a question. We in Company Prestige so many levels, and the problem with the children is they don't speak English in their daily life. So sometimes in the classroom, when we give them new lessons perhaps or rules or activities, they don't really get it. So do you have any fun ways to make them understand every single thing?
Okay, so being able to teach in English even when your student's level is very low. Okay. Yes, actually, what you do is you demonstrate. So for example, let's say, I want you, stand up, physically help her up. I want you, come here. Okay, I want you to be partners. Down. So, and bring them together. Okay, and then, if the language is complicated, so we're going to do, I want you to say, we're going to do name, age, name, you can pick your own age. Okay, name, age, and what I like. So if they know the language, I can physically show, I want you to talk. If they don't know the language, we'll do it first. So, my name is Barbara. What's your name? Okay. And I am 12 years old. How old are you?
24.
My older sister. I like satay. How about you? I like pizza. Okay, so now we mod this. So then I can put them in groups. And again, I ask you, know the language? Do you know what to do? Is there a reason that you have to speak in Bahasa? And the answer is no. So can you show me you can do it both in English? What's your name? My name is Mom. How are you?
I'm 24.
What do you like?
I like pizza.
All right, so I can show in English. Please sit down. Thank you so much. I can show them in English. If we're playing a game, we play the game one time with everybody watching either one group if it's a big group, or me playing with them, and we just show. And then I use the same games over and over and over and over because I only have to teach the rules one time. So bingo, you only have to learn bingo once. Or you only have to learn how to play Go Fish once. And then you can put different language in each time. Does that help? And if you had a question and you didn't get it answered, I will be here all day. I live on Facebook. I'm happy to hear from teachers on Facebook if you have a question later. Just do let me know that I met you in Samurai, so that I don't wonder, who are all these people? Okay? But thank you again.
All right. So once again, if you want to, if you'd like to contact her, make sure that you add her Facebook on Barb Saka, right? Barb Space Saka. No, Barb Saka, just in one word. Okay, or Twitter?
Or Twitter. Same Barb Saka.
Okay. At Barb Saka. Facebook and Twitter, the same. Barb Saka. Okay, now for the next session, 2 more questions. The gentleman in the middle and the lady with the white veil on the back. Okay. I'll mention your name clearly so I can note. Okay, thank you. Oh,
Or now? Okay.
yes.
You're
2 more
fine.
questions, is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine if you have time.
Do you still have time?
I'm easy. While we're doing this, if by chance anybody happens to see a white iPhone with a pink case, it's mine. Someplace this morning, I set it down between here and there.
We can help by making a phone call to your phone.
I think it's on mute, and it's also from Japan, so I don't have a cell phone. It's mine! English as a real tool for communication. Right, now what are the questions?
Your presentation at the very beginning, but when I came here, I found that you presented how to teach
Closer to the mic.
sounds in isolation. And the problem with my children is that when sounds is in isolation is no more problem for our students, but the problem is rhythm. Indonesian is English and English have different rhythm. We have Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia, we have a selected timing rhythm, so we start on episode levels, while English is the stress timing rhythm. So when someone say, "Oh, you're so beautiful," then my students just catch what they say because their ears, my students' ears, expect to hear you are so beautiful, not beautiful. So the problem of rhythm, how to would you mind to explain to us the timing of how to use rhythm to the students? Thank you.
Okay, actually it's very, very easy. Japanese have the same problem. And the answer is chants. Because chants have natural rhythm and American English is 4/4 time. It's like music. So for example, we have the example of my students doing, this is my friend Sarah. Right? When I tried that the first time, I got, this is my friend Sarah. Which doesn't work in conversation because it's too long. Right? This is my friend Sarah. This is my friend Sarah. It's a very short, we always have the same beat. It can be, this is a pen. This is the pen I took with me to school today. The same beats. So, if you put it into a chant, I usually have my students actually either tap or stand. So it's like, this is my friend Sarah. Right? So we're stressing it with physical parts. Well, remember, this is my friend Sarah. Hello, Sarah. This is my friend Sarah. Hello, Sarah. This is my friend Scott. Hi, Scott. This is my friend Scott. Hi, Scott. This is my friend Sarah. This is my friend Scott. They could do it perfectly if they were singing. So for a while, we had to sing the conversation. But then after a while, we could take the conversation away. Right? And if you're trying to do it with regular questions and answers, for example, if we do, what's this? What are these? I don't know about you, but my students have a hard time making a distinction. This and these sound alike. Right? So what's this? What are these? I'm going to clap and I want you to tell me which question. So by using stress, reinforcing it with claps and stepping, you can make their language fit the rhythm so that with practice, they get used to doing it with a natural rhythm and intonation. That's one of the reasons we're really lucky to have Carolyn Graham, who was the songwriter on Let's Go. I mean, she invented jazz chants. And so all of Let's Go has rhythm built in to help the children speak with natural rhythm and intonation. It will not solve your problem of speaking with an Indonesian intonation at first. Because if your students go out and say, I went to the movie last night and I really liked it, it was wonderful. Other people around them will not understand them. Because everybody is listening for Indonesian way of speaking English. So it will be difficult for your students to become very natural because when they go to like junior high school, they will stand out. And the reinforcement is to sound like other Indonesian speakers of English. But you can create a little cocoon in your classroom. In the class, we use natural English. And with rhythm and chants and stress, you can help them at least learn how to do it. You may not be able to make them do it, but they will be able to. Does that help? Yes. Okay. Can I have one more?
Sorry, we don't have time, sorry. So the second question, please. Yes, the gentleman in the middle.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lani Adi from East Java. My question is, this happens in our country, in Indonesia, because what you have discussed is that how to teach children, especially English for young learners, very well. But the problem in Indonesia is when the children in elementary school, they don't have any good models. So the English teachers are not the real English teachers. They are the class teachers, so they are assigned to teach English, although they don't have any background. Now the problem is when you give a good model how to pronounce the word correctly, I'm not sure that it will work for the children. Do you have some ways how to overcome this?
First of all, you are a perfectly good model. Are there more native speakers of English in the world, or are there more non-native speakers of English? Which country has more English speakers than any other country in the world? China. China has more people who speak English than the United States. They all have an accent. When I did an activity with my students for the alphabet, I took them onto a technology tool I'm going to demonstrate this afternoon. And one of the things I wanted was to show them that it's okay to be a non-native speaker. It doesn't matter if you sound like an Indonesian speaking English. You are an Indonesian speaking English. You are never going to become a native speaker. I hate to burst your bubble. If I will never become a native speaker of Japanese. I sound like a California girl speaking Japanese. It's okay. So you being imperfect is absolutely the perfect model for your students. Why should I be the model? Are they ever going to sound like me? Does it matter? No. People speak English with lots of different accents, and the important thing for our students to understand is that you shouldn't wait until you sound perfect.